All right. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here in America House or online if you're joining us online. This is the weekly lecture from Education USA, so I hope that's what you're all here for. I hope you're in the right place. And today we're going to be talking about preparing for standardized tests for undergraduate admissions to U.S. colleges and universities. My name is Nellie. I'm one of the advisors at the Education USA Advising Center here in Kyiv. Do you know what Education USA is? Have you heard of Education USA before? Yes? Some of you. So if you don't know who we are, what we do, we are an official network of the U.S. State Department, and we provide accurate, unbiased, and comprehensive information about studying in U.S. colleges and universities. So we work with all accredited colleges and universities in America, more than 4,000, to really help students find their best fit, to find what's going to be best for them. So we don't promote certain colleges or universities. We work with all of them to help you find what you'd like to do in the U.S. Okay? So today we're talking about standardized tests, but there are a couple things that I want to get straight first of all. So you all are in high school, is that correct? In school? Yes? 9th grade? 9th grade? 10th grade? 11th grade? 8th grade? Anyone from 8th grade? Okay, wonderful. Well, anyway, no matter what grade you're in or what form you're in, I hope this information will be useful for you. So today we are talking about undergraduate admissions. You saw here for U.S. undergraduate admissions. What does that mean? This means we're talking about bachelor's degrees. Okay, so stupen bakalavra. There are other standardized tests for master's programs or for PhD programs, for MBAs, for law programs. Okay, so today we are only talking about the general standardized tests that you need to take to apply for bachelor's degrees in the U.S. Okay. The two main standardized tests are the SAT and the ACT. Have you heard of these before? Yeah, you've heard these terms before. So these are just two of the main standardized tests that students take to be admitted to U.S. colleges and universities. The SAT is administered by College Board, a nonprofit organization, and the ACT is administered by a nonprofit organization, also called ACT. So that's all you really need to know. So we're focusing on these two tests today because they are the most popular. Has anyone ever taken the SAT or the ACT? No. Okay, great. Okay, so first of all, what are the SAT and the ACT? So they are standardized tests that are designed to measure a student's potential success in college. So they are general knowledge tests, and we'll talk about the content of each test in a moment. But it's important to know that they are not managed by the government, right? So I know in Ukraine, the ZNO is sort of managed and put together by the Ministry of Education, right? In the U.S., that's not the case. As you saw before on the previous slide, they are administered by nonprofit, independent organizations. So the U.S. government has nothing to do with the SAT or the ACT, okay? Who should take the SAT or the ACT? You should take one of these tests if you are applying for American bachelor's degree programs or to two-year community college that require or strongly encourage SAT or ACT test results. We will talk about this a little bit later, but all U.S. colleges and universities have different admissions requirements. So some universities or colleges don't require test results, so make sure you look carefully at what the colleges or universities that you're interested in require. But it's also a good idea to take these tests if you want to receive generous merit-based financial aid, okay? So there are different types of financial aid. We're not going to talk about that today, but we have lectures on our YouTube channel about financial aid if you want to find out more about that. But one main type of financial aid that universities give out is merit-based, which means that they give it to you if you have academic achievements. So if you have good grades from school, maybe you won some Olympiads, or you did really well on these standardized tests. So SAT, ACT, TOEFL, IELTS. If you do well on those tests and have good grades in school, they will give you generous financial aid. So even if your colleges or universities do not require test results for admission, it's still a good idea to take them if you want to get financial aid. Okay? All right. So here's a quick comparison of the two tests, the ACT here and the SAT here. So for the sections on the ACT, they're quite similar. For the ACT, there's an English, a math, a reading, and a science section with an optional writing section. You can write an essay if you want to. The SAT is very similar, reading, writing, and language, math, but as you'll notice, there's no science section. There's no science section on the SAT. And again, the essay is optional. Again, even though it's optional, it's a good idea to take it because you can show colleges and universities, right? Like, I'm willing to do even the optional things to really get a good score and show you that I'm excited about this and I'm willing to put in the hard work, okay? So the score range for the ACT, 1 is the lowest score you can get, 36 is the highest. The SAT, the lowest score you can get is 400, the highest is 1600. It's just different ways that they score it. Okay, so a perfect score on the ACT would be 36, perfect score on the SAT would be 1600. Okay. Here are some pros, some pluses of each of the tests. So for both of them, you'll see you can take it multiple times. There's no limit to how many times you can take the ACT or the SAT. Of course, you probably don't want to take it a lot of times because it's a difficult test and very long and expensive, as we'll see later, but you can retake it if you want to try to get a better score. Another plus for the ACT is that it has a science section, which can be really a good thing if you want to study STEM. Do you know what STEM is? What is STEM? Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Yep. So those hard science fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, as opposed to arts and humanities like literature, history, things like that. So if you want to study a STEM field, maybe chemistry or engineering or computer science, it can be good because the ACT test has a science section, so you can show off your science knowledge there. Another pro for the SAT is that overall you have more time for the essay. So for the essay for the ACT, you have 40 minutes to write an essay. For the SAT, you have 50 minutes. And also on the SAT, you have more average time per question. So if you do the math about how many questions there are total and how many minutes per section of the test, for the ACT, it averages to about 49 seconds per question, and the SAT, it's about 1 minute and 10 seconds per question. So that just depends on how fast you can work. If you're not a very fast test taker, the SAT might be better for you. So again, some minuses, some cons of the ACT. Again, you have less time for the essay and per question. And a minus for the SAT is that you may have to take subject tests. So there's a general SAT test, and then there are different SAT subject tests that you can choose to take. You don't have to for all universities, but some universities do require it. So let's say, for example, you want to study STEM, but you decide to take the SAT. Some universities may then require that you take additional subject tests in chemistry or mathematics or something like that. Okay, so that's just something to be aware of. But the bottom line is always make sure that you check and see what your university requires for the thing you'd like to study. Okay. Any questions about the structure? Good. Okay. Okay, so then looking at actually logistics. When can you take the test? Where can you take them? And how much do they cost? So let's look at the ACT first. So the first important thing to notice is that you can't just take these tests whenever you want, right? They have specific testing dates. You can't just take them online from your apartment or your home, right? You have to go to a testing center on a designated day, sign up ahead of time, and take it. So they have ACT. They usually offer them for 2 days right next to each other. So, for example, I think it's the 12th and the 13th of July, and then the 7th and the 8th of September or something like that. But again, these are all 2020, so starting this year going into next year. So you'll see you have more chances to take the ACT than you do for the SAT. The SAT has fewer chances for international students, okay? And how much does it cost? The ACT costs $150, $166.50 if you decide to take the essay, versus the SAT is $96.50 or $111.50 with the essay. So you'll notice the SAT is obviously cheaper, right? Score reports. So what does this mean? So when you take the test, of course, you want the universities to see your results because they need them. For both of these tests, you can send 4 reports of your scores to 4 universities for free. And then after these 4 free score reports, you have to pay $13 for each additional college you want to send it to, or for the SAT, $12 for each additional college you want to send it to. Okay. In terms of registration, for the ACT, you have to register 3 weeks in advance. So again, and the SAT is even 1 week extra, 4 weeks in advance. So you really have to plan ahead. You can't, if the testing date is on this upcoming Saturday, you can't sign up to take it on the Thursday before, right? Like, you really have to plan ahead because those spots do fill up, especially in testing centers that are not so big and don't have so many spots available. They do fill up. And if you try to register late after their registration deadline, you have to pay an extra fee. So planning ahead is also very important, okay? There are ACT testing centers in Kyiv, Lviv, and Ivano-Frankivsk, and SAT in Kyiv, Mykolaiv, and Sumy, okay? So that's sort of the logistics for registering and taking these tests, okay? Any questions about that? Yeah?
If I want to pass SAT and for example, apply to STEM,
Mm-hmm.
my university wants me to pass additional.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do I have to pay more?
Great question, yeah. So I'm just going to repeat the question into the microphone for people online. So the question was, if you're taking the SAT, but your university requires those extra subject tests, do you have to pay extra? Yes, because those subject tests will be on a separate day. So you would not take the general SAT test and the subject test in the same day. They're separate tests on separate days, because it would be too much to try and do in one day. So yeah, those are extra. Okay. How do you prepare for these tests? Okay. The first steps I would recommend is, first of all, to understand what the colleges or universities on your list require. So the first step that we say when you're thinking about studying in American colleges or universities is to figure out your priorities, figure out what you want to study. Again, Education USA helps with this process, but start coming up with a list of universities that are interesting to you that you'd really want to study. And for undergraduate, we usually recommend that you narrow it down to 10 or 12 colleges or universities according to your priorities: location, academic interest, type of college, size, etc. So once you have your list, then look at what they actually require. And then that will help you decide, okay, am I going to have to take the SAT and subject tests, right? But the good thing is that all colleges and universities in the U.S., as far as I know, accept either the SAT or the ACT. So I don't think there are any colleges in the U.S. that say, we will only accept ACT results, we will not accept SAT. That's not the case. So it can be helpful, though, especially if you want to study STEM and you need to take those SAT subject tests. That might help make your decision, okay? But let's say you don't have a college list yet. Let's say you're not at that point in the process, but you still want to start preparing for these tests. In that case, I would say just look at the structure of both tests. Take a look at some practice tests. You don't necessarily have to take the test, but even just look at the structure. Look at some practice test questions and decide which you think you could be more successful at, okay? So let's say you don't want to study STEM. Let's say you want to study history or something like that, and you look at the ACT science section and you think you would do really bad on that. Then maybe it's better to take the SAT so you can just avoid science altogether. But also the way that they test materials. So the reading section on the ACT is different from the reading section on the SAT. So look at both, understand what kind of questions they're asking, and sort of have a conversation with yourself, know yourself, and say, okay, I think I could do better on this test than the other one. And then once you make that decision, choose a test and just stick with it, right? You do not need to take both tests. You can if you want to. I don't know why you would. It's a lot of work and of course more money. There's really no need to do that. Like, it would not be any benefit to send both SAT and ACT results to a college, right? So just choose one that you think you'll be better at and stick to preparing for that test, okay? Make a study plan for yourself and stick to it. I'm sure you can find online different schemes for, week 1 of studying, week 2 of studying, week 3, and really stick to it. And it will be better if you have a plan that you can really commit to, rather than just sort of aimlessly trying to study without really knowing what your goals are. And usually we recommend for SAT, ACT, and even for the English language test, TOEFL and IELTS, the minimum time you should be preparing is 6 months. I know that sounds like a long time, but trust me, it's really worth it, because even if you know English really, really well, the way that they ask the questions and the kind of, knowledge that or critical thinking that they're trying to test takes some time to get used to. So if you try to cram for these tests in 3 weeks or a month, you're not going to do well. So make sure that you really spend the time to prepare for these. If you are in 9th grade or 10th grade or thinking even farther ahead and you can prepare for longer, even better, okay? All right. Some test preparation strategies. Do a little bit every single day. Even if you don't sit down and even if you don't have the time to sit down and study for an hour or 2 hours every day, I think most of us probably don't have time to do that. Even if you can just do some questions on your phone on one of the apps for 10 or 15 minutes, that helps, okay? Take practice tests, or take a practice test in real conditions, which means set the timer so you know the real time that you have to take the test. Don't have any distractions. Go somewhere where it's quiet. Have a calculator with you or not, depending on which test you decide to take, and really sort of try to put yourself in what those real conditions will be like. I would say at least 3 months in advance to evaluate your level, right? So if you take the practice test and you do not get the result that you expected, you still have time to prepare and figure out what you still need to work on. But it might also just help you have an understanding of where you are, so there are no surprises. If you never take a practice test before you take the real thing, you might be shocked by the result. So it can be for your own peace of mind as well, just to know where you are. When you take these practice tests or work on practice questions, write down your mistakes and make sure you understand what you did wrong and review them more than once. So everyone has a different way of doing this. I know someone who had a book that said a book of my mistakes. It's a little bit negative. I try to put it more positively, but where you just write down every question that you got wrong, then work it out, try to do it again, and then go back and review those so you understand, and you might even be able to see patterns of, okay, I consistently make these mistakes on the math questions. These are the kind of questions I need to focus on, okay? Take more than one practice test if you can. It's hard because they're long, 3 or 4 hours. But it might help you so you can see if you're getting better. But allow time to prepare more in between those practice tests. So if you take one 3 months ahead of time, don't take another practice test in 2 weeks, right? Because you probably haven't had the chance to really improve your level. Maybe take one a month later. So give yourself time to prepare and actually improve in between taking those practice tests. Get good at time management skills. This might sound kind of odd, but I'm sure you've all taken tests, right? Standardized tests even, yeah. And you understand that a lot of it is about managing your time during the test. So obviously some some good strategies are to do the easy questions first, right? So if the second question in the section is really hard, don't sit there and work on it for a half an hour, because then the rest of the section is gone. So go through, do the ones you know, and then go back to the hard ones. Try to eliminate answers as much as you can to increase your probability of getting it right, and then guess on the questions if you have to. The nice thing is that on the SAT, there used to be a penalty, like a punishment, an extra punishment for guessing and getting it wrong. But they have gotten rid of that. Now there's no penalty for just guessing. So it's always better, even if you don't have time to read the question, you got a 25% chance of picking the right one. So just pick something. Okay. There's no penalty for that. It can be good to remind yourself why you want to do well on the test. I think, especially if you're studying for 6 months, during month 4, you might just be tired of this. Like, why am I doing this? I hate this. But remind yourself that really there's a lot at stake. It's really worth it, because getting good test results can make a difference of thousands of dollars in financial aid. Okay, so try to remember the big picture and remember the benefits you will have if you do well on the test. And find a study buddy. It's the same thing with like going to the gym, right? If you can find someone who will hold you accountable, you're more likely to go. So find a study buddy, especially since you all are from Kyiv, but even if you're not from Kyiv online, you can come to the library at Education USA, come with a friend, sit down, make a plan, decide to study together, and you'll be able to help each other out if you don't understand something, but also hold each other accountable, okay? Okay. There are so many resources out there for preparing for tests. Obviously, there are a lot of online resources and practice tests. The Education USA Advising Center can send you online resources. All you have to do is email us, and we can share those with you. There are a lot of materials directly on the SAT and ACT websites. Some of them, like some study plans and courses and things, you have to pay for, but they have a lot of free stuff as well. And Khan Academy particularly works with SAT, and they have a lot of free practice tests as well. There are, of course, paper, physical resources you can get. As I mentioned, at the Education USA Library, American Council's Library on Esplanada 20, Stancija Metro Palac Sportu. We have lots of preparation books. You're welcome to come, sit in our library. It's a nice space to study. We've got nice big windows, and you can sit there and use those materials as much as you'd like. And if you're not from Kyiv, you're joining us online, there are also test prep materials in all the Window on America centers in the Oblast centers around all of Ukraine, every single Oblast center. So that's always great to go sit there after school and do some studying. Of course, there are a lot of apps on your phone, and that can even make it more fun. Makes it easy, right? When you're sitting on the marshrutka, just pull out your phone, do a couple questions, and you can do a little bit every day. So there are apps from College Board, which again is the nonprofit organization that administers the SAT. There are some directly from ACT, and there's another one called Magoosh that has SAT and ACT, and they might have TOEFL and IELTS as well. I'm not sure, but you're all smart. Just go onto the App Store on your phone and search for test prep. Okay. The main thing to know is just to practice, practice, practice. The more practice you get, the better it's going to be. If you've taken standardized tests before, either in Ukrainian or in English, you'll know that doing well in these tests is less about your knowledge and more about knowing how to take the test, right? So, on the science section of the ACT, they're not going to say, what's the 35th element on the periodic table, right? They're not testing your knowledge or how well you can memorize things. They're testing your critical thinking. Do you know how to reason through things? Can you use formulas to figure things out? So it's not about knowledge. It's about knowing how to take the test, managing your time, understanding what they're testing, understanding how to answer their questions, okay? So the more practice you can get at that, the more successful you will be, okay? So how do colleges and universities evaluate these test scores? How important are they, I guess is another way to think of it. So the first thing to know is that more and more colleges and universities in the U.S. are becoming test optional, which means they do not require standardized test scores. And this is because they understand that standardized test scores are not necessarily the best way to measure someone's intellect or ability, right? They are recognizing that. And really, they want a full picture of the student. So the typical application package to a U.S. university is not only test scores, it's also your grades from high school. They ask you to write an essay. They ask for any academic achievements or volunteering experience, leadership experience. So they really want to see a full picture of who you are. They ask about your extracurricular activities, right? Playing musical instruments, playing sports. So they want to get a full picture of you, and it's not just about your test scores, okay? Often they will consider the highest scores from various tests. And by that, I mean that if you take the SAT more than once, and let's say the first time you did better on some sections and the second time you did better on other sections, usually they will take your highest results from both tests, which is really nice. It's called super scoring. You'll have to look again at what each college or university says they will do on their website. But let's say the first time you got higher scores on English and math, and the second time you got higher scores on writing and science or whatever, they'll take those scores and put it together to be one, your best score, okay? As I mentioned before, they do use these results to evaluate academic potential, especially for merit-based financial aid. So even though they know it's not a perfect indicator, they do use it to look at, okay, will this student be successful in our university, especially at those highly competitive universities, okay? But there's something else I want to draw your attention to. When you're looking on a university's website, be careful that you know the difference between the minimum score versus the average score, okay? So the minimum or the required score means that they will not consider your application if your score is lower than what they say. So you won't usually see this for admission, but you might see this for financial aid. So they might have a really competitive or generous scholarship, and they'll say the minimum score to be required for the scholarship is a 34 on the ACT. Okay, so that means if you got a 32 on the ACT, don't apply for that scholarship because they probably will not consider you. They might, but probably not. The average scores is just there to help give you an idea of the students that they admit and whether or not you'd be competitive for admissions to that university or that scholarship. So the average score is not like some strict thing. It's just to help you understand, would I be a good fit for this college or something like that. Okay, so let's say they say our average scores are from 30 to 32 on the ACT, and you got a 21, probably you're not going to be super competitive for that college. But on the flip side, if you got a 35 on the ACT and their average scores are 20 to 24, you might get bored at that university. You might want to go somewhere that's more competitive. Okay, so it's really just a way to judge yourself if you've already taken the test and think about, am I a good fit for this college or this university? Okay. All right. What questions do you have about the SAT or the ACT? If you are joining us online, you're also welcome to type questions into the chat box. Any questions? Fantastic. Nothing online, Deanna?
Nothing.
All right. Hopefully that means that I covered the information very, very well. Okay, so this is our website here. All of the information here is in Ukrainian. There's lots of basic sort of foundational information there about higher education in the U.S., different degrees, standardized tests, what do I do, where do I start, and everything like that. Here's our email address that you can contact if you ever want test prep materials for SAT, ACT, TOEFL, IELTS, GRE, GMAT, any of those standardized tests. And also on our website, you can sign up for a consultation with our advisors. I forgot to say at the beginning that since we are an official network of the U.S. State Department, everything we do is free. All of our services, advising sessions, events, everything we do is free. So feel free to sign up for a consultation if you have any questions about any part of the admissions process from the beginning all the way to the end, okay? And also up here we have some lovely роздаткові матеріали, if you'd like to take them. Here is some general information about Education USA, about what we do, how to find us. We're everywhere on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, Instagram, all that good stuff. And here's some information about exchange programs and scholarships from U.S. colleges and universities. So as you probably know, since you're here, every Thursday at 5 p.m. we have lectures at America House right here on different topics related to admissions, maybe how to write an admissions essay, how to choose a university, what can I do with a degree in engineering, basically anything. So you're welcome to join us in person, or you can join us online. And since you're all teenagers, we also have a great opportunity as well. There's something called the Education USA Academy. That is a college preparatory summer program in the U.S. And the U.S. Embassy this year has generously agreed to cover 3 full scholarships for Ukrainian students to go and take advantage of this opportunity. So if you're thinking about applying to U.S. colleges and universities, but want to find out about the process or what it's like, you want to go to an American university and see what your life could be like there, please consider applying for this scholarship. It's a really cool opportunity. And we will have a webinar with people from the academies in the U.S. on February 20th. Again, 5 p.m. America House. You can join us online or come in person. And the deadline for the scholarship is March 1st. Okay? But we're posting all about that on all of our social media. So just go to our website or social media, find out more info. But we'll be happy to see you here in person or online on February 20th if you'd like to find out more about that. Okay, I think that's everything. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And if you have any questions in the future about anything, звертайтеся. Дякую.